What's up, guys? It is 2 days after Christmas. Been working on the charger. Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope everyone had a good, safe holiday. It is the Saturday after Christmas, and I'm back filming. I had to take a couple days off there just to clear my head. I have been working on the car. In fact, I'm going to give you an update here real soon, shortly. But yeah, I just been inundated with family stuff and just enjoying the holidays as much as I can. So, with that said, here's where I'm at on the car. So I figured out the fan shroud rubbing on the fan, so I was able to manipulate the inside there where it was rubbing. I basically polished it down with a little roll-lock disc, and so now the fan doesn't touch that. It's pretty close still, so I guess we'll see if when the fan spins, if it does contact it a little bit. It's just kind of janky the way they made this. I don't know if this is actually the real way that Chrysler did it, but it's got these teeth that you can see right there, and they look like they're supposed to go all the way in like that, but they don't. They kind of sit halfway in between. Let's see if I can get a better shot there, but yeah, so that was kind of a trigger part of this whole problem. But I did resurface the backside. There's like a flat plate that goes right here. It's part of the mold. I did thin that out just a little bit, just so the fan doesn't hit it. So again, we'll see. I was really tired of taking the spacer off. I'm like, there's got to be another way. And then of course I have this distance between the fan and the front of the clutch for the AC compressor here, which is about my finger width, which is not a lot. It's about 5/8 of an inch. So I had to keep that in mind if I was going to cut the fan spacer down. But anyway, it's fixed. I've got the wires running to the reservoir pump. Found out that there's actually no nut that goes to the top that holds the pump in there. As you can see, it's actually just sitting in that grommet down there with threads. Turns out, called Classic, and they took them a minute to figure it out, but they've told me there's a filter that is not sold with the pump that you buy, and guess what? It's also back ordered. So mystery solved on that. It is wired, ready to go. I have my horn wire here still. I'm not going to make those up until I have the horns, but 98% of the wiring is complete. See some grounds there just from various things. I installed the relays, as you saw in a previous segment, for the headlights there. Came out pretty good. Hopefully it works. I've come to realize that these straps are absolutely no good. They're factory. However, I don't know, whoever makes these things, they don't hold up much. As you can see, I broke one there. So gonna have to order another. They weren't super expensive or anything, but they were, you know, OEM-ish stuff that if you want it to look right, you got to use. But anyway, I mean, I'm not fooling anybody with all this wiring here. It just is what it is. So all right, so with that, headlight wiring's done. I did run another leg over. I changed my trinary switch out to the binary, and the reason for that is I'm not using an electric fan. A trinary switch is actually used when you want to enable a fan off the pressure switch, which is what that is, the binary switch. And so that you just don't need a trinary switch if you're not going to run an electric fan. So that's all that's for, to my knowledge anyway. Put this driver's side header back on because we're mocking up exhaust. Show you that in a sec. Got my, let me grab a light. All right, I'm back. So I did the press tape on the evaporator side of the air conditioning so that doesn't sweat and leak water into the floorboard. I ran the drain, as you can see right there, for the evaporator enclosure. That lets condensation drain out, as everyone's seen on parked cars running air conditioning. There's a puddle underneath them. That's what that is for. All the duct work is finally done, and I wanted to give you some caution on this duct work. They don't give you a lot of extra, so I always run the long ones first, and then it actually ended up having just about 6 inches left, so it wasn't short by any means, but they sure did make it easy on you. The diffuser that goes to the back of these vents, it comes from vintage air is miserable to not only hold on to the back of this assembly, but when you're putting the ducts onto the back of that diffuser, they have to stretch beyond what you would think that they should do. But luckily, my editor got me a cordless heat gun. And what did I use it on first? That air conditioning duct going to the center vents there. So I think the reason was the diffuser where you put the duct on the back was just too big for that ductwork to spread over. So luckily it's not metal inside the ducts for structure. It's actually like a plastic nylon sort of deal, where if you got a little bit warm, it would be a little more supple, and it fit over just fine. So we're good to go there. As you can see here, I am just about wrapped up with wiring internally. I have to put my door switches on. Of course, those switches don't fit in the holes because they're not OEM, but I can't find any OEM switches, so I bought some standard ones. And then a brake switch, same thing, has another switch that goes up there to do the brake lights. And then still trying to figure out the wiring for the reverse light. And so I've got this guy going to the transmission, and it's a ground trigger switch. Seems pretty straightforward, but I can't seem to find a wiring diagram because the American Auto wire is, you know, different colors than factory, and this guy is black. So, and there's 3 connectors on the harness that I got from Brewers. So I'll figure that out. Let's see here, what else? Oh, we got windows going together. I cleaned all the windows last week in a previous segment. They are good to go. They actually came out really good. And we've been refurbishing all of the window mechanisms and all that bare aluminum cast that goes inside these things. A lot of moving parts in these window systems, and this is manual windows, so not even power. So we are working away at it. Still have a bunch of stuff to restore in those bags. The components inside these cars is crazy. There's just so much of it. So some muffler or exhaust tube there. That is going to be the longer portions of the exhaust I'm about to show you. I have it. The mufflers are actually mocked up, and I'll show you my process on that. All in all, had a good Christmas. Got a couple of tools from the kids, which was really cool. I got this little cutoff wheel from Milwaukee. Instead of using an air tool, I can use this now, which is really cool and handy. We have our steering column going back together to be mocked in, because it has to be the center shaft has to be shortened for the steering box, that I'm running. Of course, we have to polish all this bright work, and I got to weld a couple of nuts on these seat brackets, the inner nuts that hold the back. Basically, it's a weld nut inside these guys that the backrest bolt to, and they just broke off. I think 3 out of 4 broke off, so I'm just going to weld all 4 of them. So those that doesn't happen anymore. Let's see here. Let's get underneath the car here. All right, so here's my mufflers that I'm going to use. These are Flowmaster, I believe they're Delta 50s, 40s, can't remember. Anyway, they're 3-inch in and out, staggered inlet, and I have chosen to utilize, because this is kind of where I want them as far as depth goes off the bottom of the car. They're very much in line with the header collector extensions, which is what I like. I hate when the exhaust sits way below the frame rails. It's just a skid plate at that point. A lot of guys do run their tips out the back underneath the rear end of the axle, and I understand why that is, and I can tell you it's going to be tight with 3-inch, but I haven't done it yet, so I guess you'll see how it goes. So one thing I wanted to show you guys is I know I'm probably not the first person to do this, but I'm utilizing the rear inner seat belt weld nuts for these exhaust hangers. I thought that would be appropriate since the car actually came with single exhaust, so there's only one provision on the passenger side over there for that. So I had to come up with something clean and unoffensive. Hopefully none of this offends you guys, but that's all right if it does. I think this is where I want them. Not quite sure yet. I am gonna tack these together today to alleviate some oh my gosh, some of these jack stands. I mean, I only have so many that I can use, so once I tack these guys, you see these hangers hanging down here. It's kind of typical for me to just wrap them around the bottom of these, but I think I will probably to some degree. I'm just not sure exactly, you know, how much, but I always tend to wrap them around the bottom, just because if you weld just to the sheet metal here, eventually it'll rust if you don't paint it. And I will paint this stuff. I'm going to show you guys a pretty cool product that is a alternative to having your exhaust ceramic coated, which we all know is super expensive. In my opinion, it's not entirely necessary unless you live in the salt areas, which you got to do what you got to do, so I get it. So that's that on those. Sorry about that. And then I'm going to try to do an H crossover here. I thought about doing an X, but I don't know. I've kind of struggled with it because it's not really something that you would see back then. And this car is kind of a day two flavor. Obviously there's some stuff that you wouldn't see, so I'm not exactly, you know, correct on that, but hey, this is my car. I can do whatever I want, and you guys do the same. So I don't know. I know an X pipe sounds bitchin', and I'd obviously prefer that for performance, but I think what I'm going to end up with is a H pipe on this, so no big deal. It also acts like a front driveline catch as well. So if I put that H pipe right about here, or the crossover, that drive shaft lets go there. It beats the floor obviously, but then doesn't hit the ground and pole vault you. So anyway, that's where I'm at. I am planning to run tips out the back. How and how far, I'm not totally sure yet. We're just gonna have to see. I still may have to go underneath the rear end. I hate condemning that as an option, but it is always an option. Car's never gonna have super thin wheels and tires on it, so it'll have plenty of clearance if I do have to do that. But I'm gonna try not to, because I don't like the way that looks. So anyway, I'm gonna get rolling here and I'll bring you guys along with me. All right, I know I'm putting the exhaust off too much, I'm aware, but in the name of getting my floor space back in my shop here, I got to get these seat frames out to powder coat, and I got to buy the seat covers also, and the foam and all that. But I'm gonna have the powder coater guy take care of these and free up some space for a little bit, so that's why I'm jumping on this. And my cat has now made himself known. He's been quiet all morning since as soon as I hit the record button. I kid you not. This cat pees on the toilet. Check out my Instagram, Danny Motorsports. I think it was my first post, if you don't believe me. But yeah, he pees on the toilet. Anyway, so these guys, what I'm doing here, I'm prepping. I just went through and took all the additional bull rings and everything off all the seat pans and backrests. Then when I was taking these apart, I noticed this weld nut here was basically just spinning on most of the other seats. So this is the only one standing left, which I'm going to zap. In fact, it actually seems like it's okay, but I'm going to make sure. But I've got these guys taken off from the old seats, or the other ones. These are all sandblasted and ready to go. And I'm just did my fitment of the one, but I just need to clean this up. And instead of roll out my air hose and my little plastic finger wheel to clean that up, I'm going to use my band file. This is the ultimate lazy guy tool. This thing is so useful. DeWalt makes one now too, for all you DeWalt guys. Again, just like cars, I don't have any brand allegiances when it comes to tools. Obviously you want to buy tools that you have batteries for, and that helps, keep the cost down. But yeah, check this out. It works. I mean, don't buy the bands on Amazon. Trust me, they are junk. It's like one band per project, so, and they last like 3 minutes. I don't know if it's the grit. The grit. These are 40 grit, I believe, maybe even 30. But I've noticed 60 grit is kind of the magic number for these. So buy a good brand if you're gonna do that. So, but let me get you guys set up here so you can see what I'm doing. Basically, it's just a tack. Put like 3 real hot tacks and get these guys fixed up. Hopefully you can see that in there. Alright, just had to fix my wire feed. It got trimmed up somehow. That's the first time on this unit, this machine I ever had, where that happened. It's a Miller-Matic 220 AC/DC, most expensive welding machine I've ever purchased in my life. Hopefully the last. The reason it stood out is because it does AC TIG, and most, I guess, value-friendly machines only do DC TIG, and I'm coming from an ESAB Rebel. Great machine and all, but you can only weld aluminum with a spool gun and in the MIG function, so kind of a bummer. But all these machines are becoming so expensive now, and I think this thing's even considered a hobby welder nowadays. But yeah, it's a lot. I bought cars for a lot less than I paid for that unit. Not very pretty, but it'll do. The things actually have a little flange on them that makes them key in. Otherwise, I'd have to be using a bolt to center it. But you can see that little flange around there. Make sure you can see it. See that flange? Kind of holds it in the center. But this has got to be a common problem for at least 69s, probably 68s as well. Maybe they fixed it in 70. Probably not, since they all seem to be about the same.